So greetings, Karen Clay here. Thanks for joining me again for another Feldenkrais lesson. We're going to do this one in series again, and it's called Connecting the Shoulder. Before you start, let's get what you need props-wise set up. So we're going to be working side lying, and what you will need is a pillow under your head and a pillow possibly under your waist. The pillow for under your head needs to be thick enough to support the width of your shoulder. So look how wide that is. That's not usually the size of pillows that people use. And if it's a firm pillow, it's even better. Some folks like to just stack some coffee table books and put a towel on them, because the firmer the surface, the easier your head rolls. And then the other pillow goes right here, under your waist and under your ribs, not under your shoulder and not under your pelvis bone. So it's just between the pelvis and the shoulder. So you look like this. Some of you may find that this is so comfortable and gives your bottom shoulder so much room that you might start to use this when you sleep. It's a really great trick. Okay, so now that we're set up, let's take a look at a little bit of anatomy. So here are these images. So what is interesting about these pictures to me is that they show you how intimately connected the shoulder is to the rib cage and to the spine. So without the rib cage, if you look at this picture in particular over here, you can see that there's nothing for the rib cage to sit on, because it's literally like a yoke. Like this is the milkmaid's yoke out here. And then this dangles off it, connected to the shoulder blade. So shoulder blade, shoulder blade. This is the collarbone. Here's the collarbone here. This is looking from above. There's the collarbone. There's the shoulder blade. And you can see how this, just like a yoke, is just teetering on top of the rib cage. And the socket is right here. So your humerus bone is your upper arm bone. It's a very shallow socket, which is what gives us so much range of motion in our shoulder. So now if we take a look at this, we're going to be working in this relationship to gravity. We're going to be lying down, but the arm is going to be straight out at the side. So it's a little technical, but here's a picture of the front of the shoulder blade, the back of the shoulder blade, and this is the edge of the shoulder blade. So this picture right here is this edge of your shoulder blade, and that's where the socket is. So let me get this in really close. So here is the shoulder socket. So it's made up of these two little bits of bone and this shallow socket that's part of, there's the socket, and there's the socket. And we're going to be literally standing on this point. We're going to be using our arm, again, sideways, to stand right on top of that socket and locate how that connects into the spine. All right, so with that said, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is set ourselves up with a baseline. So no pillows. And simply lie on your back and let yourself settle into the ground, getting as comfortable as you can, making sure that you're warm, making sure that your pad is comfortable enough. And just take a few slow breaths, not big breaths, but just very slow inhale, very slow exhale, and then pause and wait for the next breath to arrive. Okay? So after a few of those, notice how you've settled into the ground and notice what you feel about your right shoulder blade. Actually, let's do it this way. Notice the two shoulder blades and notice which shoulder blade has more contact with the ground. And just do your best guess. It's not a test. This is just a way for you to bring your attention inward. And then whichever shoulder blade is heavier, pay attention to that one. What makes it heavier? Is it flatter to the floor? Do you feel more surface of the shoulder resting on the floor? Do you feel the back of the shoulder joint where the upper arm meets those bones connecting to the floor? Or is that part of you off the floor? And then bring your attention to the other shoulder, the shoulder that was not as easy to sense. And just notice the differences. Don't try to make one shoulder like the other, okay? That's not what we're about here. Just notice the difference. This one I only feel on the inside of the shoulder blade. I can't feel the edge all the way out. And I don't feel any part of the back of my arm resting on the floor or something like that. So this is what we will use to measure our progress. So now please come and lie on your left side. I'm turning around to face the camera. Set up your pillows and simply lie with your knees on top of each other. It's best if you have a right angle. If your legs are way down like this, you're not very stable in your pelvis. But if you get yourself up like this, then you can feel the bottom side of the pelvis, the side opposite to this. So that would mean this side resting in the floor. Make sure your pillows are the right height. And then simply bring your palms together in front of you. And you're going to raise this top arm, so this is the right arm because you're lying on your left, to the ceiling. And just poise it there and remember the image that I gave you of that side of the shoulder blade where the socket is. What you're trying to do is to stand your arm or float your arm right over the center of the socket. Where would that be? Would it be back here? Would it be down here? Would it be up here? Do you need to take a look? Maybe you think your arm is straight, and when you look, it's way down there. So see if you can find, if you were to drop a plumb line, excuse me, I need to clear my throat. How would that drop directly into the socket? And you may notice that as you rest there, your arm is not really very still, that it does a little bit of wobbling and weaving as it starts to experience gravity in this relationship. So this is not a normal relationship to feel the shoulder. So it's very new information, and it's a new neurological sequence to stand on the head of the humerus. The head of the humerus, that's the ball of the long arm bone. Now, would you please imagine lengthening the arm towards the ceiling as if you could float it longer. Well, since the elbow is straight, you can't get any more length by straightening your arm. How can you move your shoulder blade in such a way that the hand gets closer to the ceiling? I'm going to back the screen up just a little bit. So further up to the ceiling. So you're going to float your arm gently up to the ceiling and then float it down. And once again, because this is a completely new neurological event for you, a new sensory experience probably, you may notice that the movement of the shoulder has little stops and starts, little weaves, little wobbles in it as your brain actually begins to gather and create an image of the head of the humerus in that shallow joint formed by mostly the edge of the shoulder blade. So you're using the imagery of the anatomy to help you sense and to create an experience for yourself that's pleasing, soft, and easy. And the harder you try, if you say, oh, my arm is really wobbly, let me really try, the more muscle you use, the further away from your goal you'll be. So just very easily, up and down, easily, and then lower your arm for a minute. You can always take a rest in this lesson. If your arm is tired or tingly, if you don't like this, just take a rest and come back. You can pause your phone and come back. So now let's narrow the information by giving a constraint that focuses our attention. So you're going to put your soft fist on your temple and your elbow towards the ceiling. And this is going to really clarify for you that you can't take your elbow to the ceiling unless
you move your shoulder blade away from your spine. So imagine your right shoulder blade, the one that's on the top side, like a sliding closet door, and slide that closet door open from the middle so that your shoulder blade widens across your back and starts to curve around the circumference of the rib cage. So this really clarifies for you that you cannot do this movement without your shoulder blade. Now imagine that someone else is standing above you. They've cupped their hand over your elbow and they're providing you with some resistance. So you have to push through a little bit to sense that. And you'll feel a lot of musculature activate right here in the side of your shoulder blade, the side of your ribs. So pushing through, and then pause and take a rest again for as long as you need. Again, you can pause your phone. And then see if that information has clarified for you how you move your shoulder in your socket and how you move your shoulder blade across your back. And here's another thing to pay attention to. Take your bottom hand and find your collarbone. If you find the notch in the center of your breastbone and you move outward, you'll feel the collarbone. Now feel how your collarbone moves as part of that movement. So it truly is a whole girdle, and the whole girdle is doing this movement to allow you to sense the connection into your shoulder girdle through your arm. And now let's up the ante one more bit. See if you can feel the shoulder blade as you lower the arm come towards the spine. There's a lot of musculature that connects the inside edge of the shoulder blade to the spine. And so you're working that whole sling that goes from the collarbone all the way around to the spine in the back. And now pause for a moment and notice if it's easier to find the center of the joint and to stand on the center of the joint without wobbling and weaving. We're going to call this the end of this first lesson, but please do come back onto your back and lengthen yourself down again. And wow, notice the difference in your shoulder blades. So my right shoulder is the shoulder that has less ease in it. And my right shoulder blade is now flatter than my left shoulder blade. So you might notice things like flatness, weight. It might be wider. It might be lower relative to your earlobes. So you may just notice that you've created a tremendous amount of change in yourself by creating sensory information for yourself and just letting your brain do what it's designed to do, which is to make distinctions and make better choices. So I'll see you next week with part 2 of this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please help me out and do. Thanks so much.